What's up, guys? Just got done with a great training session after having some awesome athletes in this morning, and I always have some thoughts while I'm training running through my head. And today it was just kind of contemplating or thinking through, what sport coaches want from their athletes, and a lot of times that's, conditioning is a big thing. They say they want their athletes to be conditioned to be able to perform at a high level in the third, fourth quarter, second half, whatever sport you play. But from my experience over the last decade and working with a lot of athletes is sometimes that development is backwards. So what I mean by that is we just did a team testing for a soccer team. And one thing that skipped a lot is coordination. So just athletes being able to skip efficiently, bound, sprint, all those things kind of tie together. So if an athlete can't skip well, they can't bound well, odds are they can't sprint well. So coordination is going to be number one. And that's what we work on with our younger athletes. If they come into our facility early enough, is really developing that platform for coordination. And I think any other coaches out there that work with a lot of youth athletes will identify with that and agree with that. His coordination needs to come first, right? And number two, and this is where people get mixed up, is I think they think conditioning, but when they think conditioning, in reality, what I hear from them when they explain what they want, it's actually repeatability, or the ability to perform high output effort multiple times throughout the game and well into the fourth quarter. And I think that those are a little bit different. So just straight up conditioning or aerobic conditioning versus repeatability. Being able to hit those high outputs and then do that consistently. So I think where people get it backwards is they focus just on the conditioning part, and yet they can't make the big plays at the end of the game because they don't have the output ability, or they cannot hit the speeds. They're not strong enough to continue to move quickly throughout the whole match or the game. And that's where they get it backwards, is they're never gonna be able to meet those demands unless they can hit high outputs first. So right now in my career, if I think about what an athlete, how I want them to develop, number one is going to be coordination and movement patterning. So being great movers and being able to synchronize and move well. But number two is going to be able to actually have the capacity to hit high outputs. That's going to be making sure you're developing speed, moving fast, lifting heavy, jumping extensively, and building that base. And then the last step, or where that all comes together once you get really good at that, is being able to repeat that and build your conditioning through high outputs and doing it repeatedly with proper rest times. And then ultimately that comes into the game where, coaches say you're in shape because you can hit high outputs repeatedly, and that's when you make the big plays. So I think a lot of times people get it backwards and they're focused on conditioning, but your athlete will never, no matter how good a shape they're in, if they can't reach those high outputs, they'll never be able to do that in a game. So food for thought. Thanks for listening if you made it all the way through. But just kind of a way that I would approach athlete development.